All right, so to take a look at FIFO, which is the first in, first out. Now today we're going to apply the Lifo method. Do you see a little error message on your screen?
Yes.
Okay. Clear that out. Okay. We're looking at today costing methods, right? We got to take a look at a grocery store, or if you were to buy, I think we bought toys, right? We're assuming that they have expiration dates. I don't know. But in this case, right, we're looking at Lifo, which is going to be the last in or the first out. So again, in context, right, it could be anything that is technology-wise, right? You're always going to have something that's coming out that has the later and greater model, right? Usually better technology, whatever is integrated into the newer released models. Okay, even a broomstick, right? If it, a lot of companies, they look into more new designs. So you may have an old design, obviously they're still going to sell it, but obviously you also want to take a look at the newer designs, and maybe that's something that you want more likely to purchase. So FIFO is going to be something that it's like a grocery, right? That has some kind of expiration date, and you want to get rid of the first batch. Now we're taking a look at getting rid of the last batch, okay? So let's go ahead and dive into our first example, and let's look at the formulas once again. So everything that we look at, so these formulas right here are identical to FIFO, okay? Right, we got to solve for our purchase price, same thing. It's always going to be quantity times unit price, all right? To get our total cost, it's always going to be your purchase price plus your freight cost. And then we get down to our cost per item because we're still dealing with batches. This time we're selling our last batch first instead of our first batch first. So in this case, we still need to break it down to each batch and bring in marking it down to its each and individual cost per unit or cost per item, right? Same thing here, goods available and your cost of goods sold. These two formulas are going to stay consistent within all three methods, okay? So actually all of these are going to be the same, except when we dive into tomorrow's lesson, the cost per item is going to actually change, right? So, but other than that, FIFO or LIFO, the formulas are identical. It's just a matter of fact of how you calculate the ending balance and the cost of goods sold. So here you go. So let's go ahead and dive right into our first exercise. Here it is. On June 1st, we made a purchase of 100 toys at $1.25 with the freight costing $25. So just like we've learned in chapter 5.1, we're going to journalize it like this. We're going to recognize that it's periodic inventory. So we're going to recognize it as an expense first, exactly like this, okay? Now we're going to actually plug it into our table. So here I have my quantity of 100. It's going to cost me $1.25 each, and my freight is going to be $25. So first thing that we got to solve once again is my purchase price, which is my quantity times my unit price, which gives me a total of 125, right? Now I'm going to add my freight to get my total cost of 150, all right? Then once we get to this total cost, we have to now solve for the cost per item, which in this case is going to be my total cost divided by my quantity to get me $1.50, okay? Then of course, when we do the same thing for the second one, right, we're going to recognize that we have to journalize our entries, right? But this time on June 11th, I purchased 100 toys at $1.28 plus a freight of 26. So in this case, boom, I'm going to apply it right back into my inventory worksheet. Once again, the formula, my purchase price is going to be, anyone an answer? What's my purchase price?
128.
128. What's my total cost?
154.
154, bringing me to get a cost per item to be
$1.54.
$1.54. And once again, once we reach this end point, right, because the next section is that on June 15, right, we have a total X amount of in our inventory. Once we see that, we have to automatically calculate our totals or sum up our columns, okay? So here I have a total of 200 items I purchased, costing me a total of $253 plus $51 of freight, right, altogether, to equal me a grand total of $304 total cost, okay? And once again, we're going to take these four sums and we're going to apply it to our bottom portion here. So once again, first thing we're going to do is we got to solve for our net purchases, all right? So we got the number here. We got the quantity of how much we purchased. We got the purchase price, right? Here we're going to just, again, ignore or we didn't have any returns, okay? So therefore, we're going to add those subtract those two numbers together to get me my subtotal, which, of course, I didn't have any returns or allowances. So in this case, I'm still going to be ending up with 200 items at 253. Okay? Then I'm going to add my freight. So again, freight doesn't increase in quantity, but it increases your cost. So now I have a total of 200 items at 304, and that's my net purchases. And because I don't have beginning inventory, right? Our assumption is that we're beginning our inventory as of June 1st. We've started from nothing. Now we just plug in our net purchases that we calculate from above, and then we calculate our goods available, which is your beginning plus your net to get your goods available, which in this case, we don't have any beginning. So whatever your net purchases is going to be the same as your goods available, right? Then the last thing that we were noted is that on June 15, you had a total of 80 toys left in inventory. So therefore, if I have to begin with is just 200 items, or that's my goods available, and I ended up with 80, what is my total items that I sold?
120.
120. Okay. So now we need to solve for my total amount that I actually sold. So in this case, let's take a look at our inventory. We bought 2 batches of inventory. 2 batches of 100 each, right? One for $1.50 and one for $1.54. So in this case, if I'm going to apply Lifo, last in are the first to go, right? That's how I always remind myself. Last ones in are the first to go. So if I can understand that, let's look at our batches. Which one are you going to select from first?
The last batch.
The last batch. So in this case, how many items do I need to sell?
100.
You need to sell 120. Okay? My last batch only has 100, so we're going to wipe out that entire batch. So right here, 100 times $1.54, which we already know is $154. Okay? So that's my first 100. Now that I got rid of that last batch, I only have one more batch left to go. So I have to sell 20 of those items, so 20 times $1.50 is going to give me a total of 30. So then I add my 154 plus my 30, right, to get me a grand total of 120 items sold, costing me a total of $184. Okay, so remember the last batch that we bought was 100 items at 154 plus the 20 items at $30. Add those two numbers together, you get 184. Okay. Once we solve for our cost of goods sold, now we must compute our ending balance. So you could choose either way. Either you can recognize, oh, my ending inventory should be 80 anyway. And 80, because it's the beginning balance that I had earlier, it should be $1.50. So $1.50 times 80 is going to give me $120. Or I can just go ahead and know this. If I have a goods available of $304 and I sold $184, how much should you have left? 120. Okay? So either way you solve for it, it's going to be correct. All right? Or at least, you can use your the accounting numbers, right, to match up each other, right? Now, you want to be careful, especially when you're dealing with numbers that are not friendly, such as unrounded numbers, numbers that give you digits beyond 4, okay? Because if you round too early or if you round too late, you might be off by 1 penny. So you want to make sure that this holds true, that at the end of the day, when you calculate your ending plus your goods that you sold, it must equal your total that you have available. So that must be rule of thumb too, is that at least these numbers match, that this equation holds true. Okay? So once we finally solved for our worksheet here, right? And again, notice this. We took 100 from the last batch, 20 from the previous, and we got a grand total of my cost of goods sold and my ending inventory. Right? So once we've done that and completely solved for it, now we have to complete a conversion entry, because what usually happens at the end of a given period? What must happen?
Debits must equal credits.
But one thing that you note is that someone physically went down to the basement, took a physical count, and told you. So usually that happens at the end, either at the end of the day, at the end of the week, at the end of the month. So at least you know at the end, once you are there and they tell you, hey, you have X amount of units in your inventory. That means you need to create your conversion entry, because now you recognize you actually have inventory. Okay? So this is where we're going to convert from our expenses into our inventory. But once again, if I bought 200 items, right? And someone told me, hey, you only have 80 items left. The assumption is I'm going to be dumping them into buckets, right? I'm going to be placing them in the accounts of what I have left in ending inventory and what I actually sold, okay? So that's the idea here. So once again, you're going to be straightforward. Once you utilize your inventory worksheet, plugging in the numbers is the easiest part here. And again, so here we plugged in our ending balance of toys, right, of 120. We also plugged in that we sold $184 worth of inventory, okay? But we also recognize that our original purchase was for the 253 plus the separate cost of freight of $51. And if you calculate these totals, your debits should equal your credits 100%. Okay, so again, these numbers are going to be given to, well, once you solve the inventory worksheet, you're just plugging in the numbers to complete your journal. Okay? So any questions so far?
No.
Okay? So like I said, like I mentioned it earlier, this is why it goes a little faster, because everything that you learned from yesterday's chapter is applied in this chapter, except one thing. How are you going to calculate it? Instead of taking from top to bottom, we're taking bottom to top, okay? In context of looking at how your inventory works, okay? So again, the formulas are all the same. It's just how you actually calculate your cost of goods sold is what's different, okay? Now let's see what happens when you have beginning inventory, okay? So once again, we're continuing on because we're in the middle of the month. So might as well continue on with your inventory. All right. So here we're given that on June 15, you should have a total of 80 toys left on hand. All right. Costing you a grand total of $120. So what we're going to do is, again, we're going to, on the other worksheet, we're going to enter that in our inventory on hand, okay? And then we're going to go ahead and continue on with our purchases of inventory. So once again, in this context, we made a purchase of 100 more items at $1.27, okay? So here we have a total of purchase price of $127 plus the $25 to give us a grand total of $152. And then we just divide it to get the cost per item to be $1.52, right? Then we're going to, once again, we're going to apply the second one, which is then on June 21st. I made another purchase of 100 items at $1.30, giving me a grand total of $130. Plus, I have $26 worth of freight, giving me a grand total of $156, all right? Then we're going to take my cost per item, right? We're going to take our total cost, divide it by 100 to get a total of $1.56, okay? Once again, now that we ended our last thing here, right? We have our last notion that on June 30th, you have X amount of inventory left. So here we're computing our sums. We're totaling up how much we bought. So in this case, this is what I bought. So make sure you understand that when we deal with this section here, we're only dealing with what we purchased. We're not including beginning inventory because that's going to be my inventory on hand section, if you guys remember from yesterday. We're going to take that number and apply it into that bottom half of the section. So right now we're only focusing on just our purchases and our purchases only. So again, we purchased a total of 200. Add a total of 257 plus my $51 of freight to give me a grand total of 308. Okay? And once again, those numbers are going to be applied and plugged into our net purchases. And then now, here is where I added my beginning inventory, right? So in this context here, I plugged in my 80, I plugged in that the 120 is there, and I plugged in my net purchases to give me a grand total of goods available to be 280, costing me a total of $428. Okay? So once again, I'm given this piece of information that I should have 60 items remaining in my inventory. All right? So once again, if you have 280 items and you have 60 items left, how much is your cost of goods sold? Or how many items did you sell?
220.
220. Okay? So now let's look at our inventory. So we have our beginning batch of 80. We have 100 that we purchased on June 18, right? For the $1.52. Then we have the purchase on June 21st for the $1.56. So in this context, when we actually are starting to calculate our cost of goods sold, which batch are we going to be diving in first?
The last.
The last one. The one for $1.56. Now, how many items did we sell in grand total?
220.
220. So, just by looking at this in context, we're going to eliminate the first batch of 100, right? We're going to eliminate the second batch of 100, so the middle one, and we're also going to take from the beginning balance because we sold 220, we have to take 20 out of that one. So in context, this is how it's going to look. We're going to take 100, another 100, and 20. And we're only going to be left with my beginning inventory. Okay? So in this context, we're going from bottom to top. Okay? If you think of it that way. We're going to start from the bottom batch and work our way all the way up to the top. Okay? And here it is. I calculated a total of 220. And that entire cost that it cost me was the $338. Plugged it in right there. So what should be my ending balance?
38. Oh, the 90 from, yeah, from over.
From what we have left over from the top. So if we solved it from the top, you should have 60 remaining at $1.50, bringing you a total of $90 even. Okay? Everyone good with me so far?
Yes.
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 Okay? Once again, because we reached the end of the period, right? It's June 30th. Okay, that should be June 30th. So therefore, I should have an ending inventory and a beginning inventory. All right? So in this context, I should be transferring over my ending inventory right here. All right, that always comes first. And then I'm going to be transferring over the cost of goods sold. At the same time, I'm going to be zeroing out my purchase expense, my freight expense, and zeroing out my inventory from the very beginning. Okay? And these should match at the end of the day. Okay? Any questions in learning LIFO?
No.
No. Once again, straightforward because we've learned everything that we needed to learn yesterday. So in this context, we're just taking it a look in a different way where instead of going from top to bottom, we're going to bottom to top. Okay? So let's go ahead and I'm going to ask you to journalize the whole thing. I'm not quite sure if I attached in the worksheet or not, but that's okay. You could always build your worksheet on top of that. Okay, so this is what I'm going to have you guys practice. We're going to practice journalizing the transaction at hand. So every purchase that we make, we're going to practice how to journalize it. Okay, now there are two things that you can do. You can journalize it first and then apply it to the inventory worksheet, or you could apply it to the inventory worksheet, but make sure you don't forget to journalize it, because here's one thing that you can do. So if you decide to journalize it first, right, you're essentially calculating twice, right? You're doing that calculation twice. You're multiplying the cost for you to purchase the item, and you're adding the freight to get your total amount that you owe. In this context, if we apply it to the inventory first, you can eliminate having to recalculate your problem once again, right? Because you could just, after you calculate it, you could just copy and paste what your results is in your journal, okay? Now, rule of thumb is that because this is for practices purposes only, I do want you to understand that you definitely want to make sure that you journalize and don't forget it, because if you do forget it, then that's the reason why a lot of accountants make those mistakes, because they forget to journalize a transaction. So for here, we're going to practice doing both, okay? So let's go ahead and do the first one. So the first one here is that, okay, so again, the inventory method is, once again, periodic, and it is LIFO, all right? So here, April 1st, we purchased 1,000 toys or 1,000 units at $5 each. Freight is going to cost you $100. Okay, so let's journalize this first. Okay, so April 5th. How am I going to recognize this journal? What was that?
A purchase?
Yes. Purchase what?
Purchase expense.
Expense. Good. Purchase expense. Good. All right.
A debit?
It would be a debit. Good. For how much? I'm just going to practice this first and then we'll do the other way.
The $5 times the $5 times the 1,000?
Oh, that's right. It is it's 1,000 times $5. There you go, $5,000. Okay, I'm gonna format this in a dollar form. Oh, what's over here? Oh no, I'm in the wrong tab. There you go. So $5,000, okay? What was my freight expense? Mm-hmm. Freight expense for 100. So therefore, how did I pay for this?
Accounts payable.
Yes, right? If we look at a scenario, actually it should say assume that all purchases are made on an account. So yes, we are going to place it in accounts payable. Okay. And how much do I owe?
$5,100.
Mm-hmm. Good. Okay. And I'm also going to make a note here that I purchased 1,000 items at $5. So purchased 1,000 units at $5 each. Okay. All right. Now that I've journalized it, usually second is you're going to plug it into your inventory worksheet. So here, inventory worksheet number 1 for question number 1. Date is once again April 5th. We have 1,000 units at $5 each with a freight of $100. So once again, we now have to recalculate our totals here. So what is my total going to be? What's my purchase price? $5,000. So here times this, $5,000. And what's my total cost?
$5,100.
$5,100. Now the difference here is what is my cost per item?
$5.10.
$5.10.
And the cost per item formula was what again?
Your total cost divided by your quantity. Okay. So here, we could have avoided having to calculate twice, right? If we just went straight to the inventory worksheet first, then when we plug in our numbers to the journal, we don't need to calculate twice. So that's one thing that you can do too. But oftentimes when a lot of students do the inventory worksheet, they tend to forget about the journal. Okay, so that's exactly why I did the first time around, is to practice doing the journal first. Make sure that you recognize the transaction because you don't want to be entering anything else anywhere else if you didn't even recognize the transaction in the first place. Okay, so that's just a rule of thumb there. All right, so let's go ahead and practice the other way so that we can eliminate having to calculate twice. So let's see what happened next. What happened on April 10?
750 units at $5.75.
With a freight of 75. So this time I'm going to go into my inventory worksheet first. All right. So it's April 10. Okay. We purchased 750 items at $5.75 each with a freight of 75. So Nicole, why don't you do this one? What is my total purchase price here?
The total purchase price would be the 750 times the 575.
Correct. Which should give you 4,312. So once again, I am only using cell references and I'm only using the basic symbols. That's as far as I can go, and then equal sum. All right. We'll dive into equal round later on. Okay, so there we are. Okay, so how do you calculate? So tell me, how do you calculate the total cost?
Total cost is the purchase price plus the freight.
Good. Mm-hmm. All right, which should give you $4,387.50. Right. So then, how do you calculate the cost per item?
The total cost divided by the quantity.
Correct. And you should get $1.85. Okay. All right. So now that we have our key information, right? We have our total purchase price, we have our freight, obviously, and we have the total cost. So let's go ahead and journalize this transaction. Okay. So again, it is now April 10. And what are we going to do here? How do we recognize correct? Right? So I'm going to just go ahead and copy these from above here. Save some extra time here. Okay. So what was my total debits, or what was my total purchase price? All right, let me go back to the inventory worksheet.
Total purchase price was $43.12.50.
Good. And the freight was $75. So then what is my total cost?
The 4387.50.
Yes. So that way you could just copy and paste everything in here or self-reference them from your worksheet, however you want to do it. Okay. So there you go. So that is one way that you can eliminate from having to multiply or have to calculate twice. Okay. And I'm also going to make a note here. Right. But the great thing about Excel is because we're able to enter in formulas, right? I can easily just type in 1,000 times 5, or in this case, 750 times 5.75, and I would still get the same answer. Whether it takes more effort to have to calculate it twice or even cell reference it twice. All right. So whatever makes it easier for you. Again, this class is going to be based off of primarily how to use the Excel worksheet to your best advantage for accounting. So once again, if you guys are not yet comfortable with Excel, I'm teaching you the Excel way so you could see how much easier it is to use Excel for accounting versus doing everything manually, whether you're writing it down or whether you're punching it in a calculator. Okay. Units at $5.75 each. All right. So we're good here? Okay.
Yes.
So let's see what has happened next.
On April 20th, you purchased 200 units at $6 each.
With a freight costing 20. So where do you guys want to go first? You want to do the journal first or do the inventory worksheet first?
Inventory.
Inventory. Okay, so we have April 20th. We have a purchase of 200. Oh, was it 200? 300. 200.
200.
200 at $6 each with the freight costing you
$20.
$20. Thank you. All right. So these are going to be numbers that you plug in yourself. They're given already to you. So the only thing that you have to do is just solve for the purchase price, total, and freight. I mean, cost per item. Right?
$1,200 for purchase price, total $1,220, and cost per item is $6.10.
Good. So once again, if you guys are good with Excel, you can, for this case, you could use the fill handle tool, right? No absolute cell references in here. It's relative. So in this case, every time you enter in a formula or you plug in the numbers here, you should be able to drag down and copy the formula in all the cells, right? Making it a little more easier to calculate. So instead of having to calculate it one at a time, you just plug in those numbers and the Excel will do the work for you. All right. So there we are.
Our purchase price formula all the way down and our total cost formula all the way down, right?
Yes, but not all the way down because the last column.
Well, yeah, not to the total though.
Yes, yes. So if you wanted to, so you guys know how to do the fill handle tool, right? You got to go to that little black or no, it's green. That little triangle there. Make sure your cursor is a plus sign with no arrows on it, and you drag it all the way down. Right? So click, hold, and drag down. Okay. Same thing with your total cost here, and also same thing with your cost per item. Now that's only in context if you actually applied a formula in there. If you didn't cell reference at all, then it will not work.
So the
Okay.
cost per item formula is equal sum.
Not equal sum. Okay. So the cost per item is,
The total cost.
okay,
The cost per item. The total cost divided by the quantity.
correct. And if you cell reference it, it will be this one. I forgot what that's called, a backspace. Slash. The division key. I don't know what you call that. I just know that it divides everything. And you're going to click on your quantity column, enter, and it will take the total cost and it will divide the total quantity. All right, so make sure that you have some kind of formula in your cell if you're using cell references. If you're not using cell references, then your formula unfortunately will not be able to copy down all the way. So if you're
Put that formula. Can you do that cost per item formula again?
okay, so yes. So here, I'm using cell references. I'm gonna click on my total cost. I'm going to use that backslash key or the division key in this case. And then I'm going to click on my quantity of 200. And then that's my formula. And then enter. Okay. All right. If you're punching in the numbers like this, so if I'm going to say this is my formula, it is 220 divided by 200, which you can do. It's not wrong. You'd be able to get the same answer just is, but the only problem is you can't drag the formula down because it's going to say that, oh, I'm computing the same number 220 divided by 200 all the way down. And you can't do that. It has to be cell referenced when you apply the formula. Okay? Little rule of thumb there. Okay? You good?
Yeah.
Okay. So once you've applied that formula, then you can drag it all the way down. But in this case, I have to reactivate my formula because I'm using cell references. So I'm gonna grab my 220 and I'm going to divide it by my 200, enter it in, and I get $6.10. Okay. Once I'm here, then I'm going to go to my journal once again, and I need to journalize my transaction on April 20th. Okay. So what should I do here? purchase expense. Okay, but in this case, we know what it is, right? You could either cell reference it or you could even type in the formula. It's going to be the 200 times the $6 for $1,200 plus the freight, which was given of 20, and then you can add those two numbers together to get your total cost or your total amount that you owe. Right? And I'm also going to make a little note here because in this context, I purchased 200 units at $6. Okay. Everyone good with me so far?
Yep.
Okay. So let's see what happened next on April 25th.
Purchased 500 units at $625 each, with a freight cost of $50.
So where do you want to go first? Inventory worksheet or journal?
The worksheet.
The worksheet. Okay. So here, April 25th, we purchased another 500 units at $6.25 each with a freight of 50. So because I plugged in the formula and I dragged it down, typing in all of those, the information in the quantity and the unit price, it automatically calculated my amount here. Okay? The only one I don't have is my cost per item. So in this case, what is my cost per item? Yes, $6.35. All right. Okay, so now that we have this information, we also need to start journalizing it. So once again, I'm going to also copy the journal, right? Because in this case, I have technology. I can do it. Right? So what was my total purchase price?
Total purchase price was 1,200.
Purchase price for April 25th.
That's $31.25.
Oh, 31.25.
Yes, good. 31.25. I forgot to put the date, so 4.25. Right? How much was my freight?
It was 50.
Okay, so again, I can just calculate it like that. Okay, so I should have a total of 3,175. And in this case, I purchased 500 units at $6.25 each. Okay. All right. So last but not least, what happened on April 30th?
Inventory.
Yes.
Stokist counted and saw that you had 600 units left on hand.
Okay. So now that I have that, the first indicator is I'm going to make note that that's my ending balance of 600 units. So again, ending balance will always be given or the cost of goods sold will be given. All right. So either way, if you have one of these quantities, whether it's the ending balance or whether it's the cost of goods sold, you'd be able to solve as long as you know what your goods available is. Okay. But in most contexts for these kind of scenarios or exercises, you'll always be given ending inventory. So now that I reach the end, what do I need to do?
Add up all you purchase.
Mm-hmm.
So
So,
1,550.
24.50.
Oh, what did I do? I missed it.
okay, so 1,000 plus 750 plus 200 gives you 1950 plus another 500 should be 2450.
Yep. Okay, I messed up.
Okay. All right. How much was my total purchase price?
I got $13,637.50.
Good. Excellent. Okay. All right. And then how much was my total freight?
245.
245. And then what is my total cost going to be? Yes, 13,882.50 is correct. Now I'm going to reformat these. All right. So now that I have this piece of information, these are my net purchases. So let's go ahead and plug it into this column right here. So once again, what was the total quantity that I bought?
The 2450.
2450. And how much did it cost me just to sell those items, just to buy those items?
The 13,882.50.
That's including freight.
Oh, it's including freight. Okay.
13,637.
Yes. So remember, we're taking the total purchases first because if we have a purchase returns and allowances, right? Can we subtract out freight?
No, you cannot.
No, you can only return or get an allowance based off of the original purchase price that you purchased the items for. So in this case, we do not have any purchase returns and allowances. We won't learn that until next week. So again, we have 0. So how we calculate this is if we had a purchase returns and allowance, does that increase or does that decrease your inventory?
Decrease.
It decreases it, yes. So in this context here, we're going to take my 2450 and we're going to subtract any purchase returns and allowances because it decreases my inventory, not increase it. So in this case, I'm subtracting it. But in context, I don't have anything to return. I don't have any returns. I don't have any discounts. So in this case, it should be whatever my total net purchases was before. All right, what I originally purchased everything for. All right, now we have to include my freight. So what was that, Nicole? You have a question?
The subtotal is the subtotal for the quantity.
It's going to be you're going to take the 2450, subtract your 0. And that's just going to give you 2450. Right? And then same thing here, right? You're going to focus on only your cost column. You're going to take the cost of the 18,637.50. You're going to subtract out that 0 column right here. All right? So with these, okay, I punched in the wrong formula. So with these, idea of you punching in and using cell references, what if I did say I had a return? If I did, then I would, enter in, I returned 50 items. So there you go. It calculates that I shouldn't have 2,450. I should have only 2,400 because I returned 50 items. Okay. So in context, if I apply something in this formula, it will automatically calculate me the subtotal right underneath. Okay. But that's it. That's only if we have the formula inside the subtotal. Okay. Once again, we have freight. Does freight increase quantity?
No.
No. But what does it increase?
Your total cost.
It increases your total cost. So in here, I'm going to cell reference my $245. Okay. And now I'm going to add up my columns because in this case, I need to know what my total cost is or what my net purchase is for having the 2,450 items, right? So in this case, I'm going to add these two numbers together because that will give me my grand total of how much it cost me. All right, so I have my net purchases with my total cost of the 13,882.50. All right. Once again, we do not have any beginning balances, so that is going to be 0. But we do have net purchases, right? We just solved for it from right above. So in this context, I'm just going to drag them down, right? I'm just going to cell reference it and bring it down. Okay? And then now, my goods available. My formula for my goods available is to add your beginning balance plus your net purchases. So in this case, I'm going to add 0 to my 2,450 and get my grand total of 2,450. Okay. Same thing here. I'm going to add 0 to my 13,882.50 to get myself 13,882.50. Because in this context, I don't have beginning inventory. All right. Right? So now I'm finished with that whole portion. So now I got to solve for my cost of goods sold. I'm given that I had 600 items left in my ending inventory. Okay? So now I just have to do simple math. If I started with 2,450 items and I sold X amount to end with 600 left in inventory, what is going to be the total amount that I sold?
1850.
It's going to be 1850. So again, if you follow these little parentheses right here, it is your guideline on what to do. Okay, so here we're subtracting out our ending inventory to get an equal for your cost of goods sold. Okay, so now we finally have to solve for either the ending inventory or we need to solve for the cost of goods sold.
Ending inventory would be easier.
If you'd like to solve for ending inventory, but in this sense, if you use ending inventory, what concept are you applying?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the whole question.
So if you solve for ending inventory, what concept are you applying?
Well, we're applying Lifo in this one.
Right, but in the way you, okay, so show me how you calculate ending inventory. Go ahead, Felipe. What did you say?
Oh no, I was thinking the same thing he's doing. I just did reverse. So I took the last number, subtracted from the 450, the 500, then the 200, then the 750, then you end up with 1,000, of course, but you have 600, and then you just take the 600 away from the 1,000, and the unit price would be $5 a piece. At the total price or total would be $3,000.
Okay, good. Excellent. If you solve for ending inventory, that's exactly how you do it. If you know that you're using Lifo, right, you're going to automatically assume that you're going to start from the bottom. You're going to get rid of everything from the bottom and make your way to the top. So understanding that your ending inventory should be the first batch of inventory that you just bought, right? That should be left over at the end of the day. So if you could think of it that way and you know that there's 600 items available, easy, straight away, the first batch that you purchased was 1,000. So you could easily take 600, multiply it by the 610, and get your ending inventory right then and there. Okay? That's perfectly how you could solve for ending inventory. But in this context, right, I want you to make sure that you're able to calculate it using the Lifo method as well. Okay? So for this purposes only, you guys did good by figuring that portion out. But in this context, I'm going to make sure that when I upload the answers, you guys don't come to me secondhand saying, I don't know where these numbers came from. All right, so here you go. So we got to make sure that we show you exactly how we got the answer by utilizing the Lifo method. So again, I'm going to sum up my columns so then I cover my basis of how many items I'm going to be costing out. So I have my sum there, a running balance. Okay, so here I am. Okay.
Wait, where did you put that? So you did the, on the bottom?
Mm-hmm.
On
It's
the
my
top
equal
you did
sum.
the quantity. Oh wait, where are we at? So you're in cost of goods cost, right?
No, I am in the column right over it. I'm in my workspace. I'm under quantity.
Okay,
And what I'm doing is I'm creating a running balance. Like every time I enter in numbers in here, it's going to calculate me a total.
we're doing the equal sums all the way from the top of quantity down.
Correct.
Okay.
Right? You do it to this one and you also do it to the cost as well. The total cost column here. So again, so every time we punch in a number, it's going to automatically calculate and add up my numbers here as well. Right? So here, that's my equal sum here and an equal sum here. So first thing was this, so we have our cost of goods sold. We're selling, we need to sell $18.50. All right, using the Lifo method, where are we going to start first?
500?
500, right? Are we taking all of it or some of it?
All of it.
All of it. So in this case, I'm just going to cell reference so you know where these numbers come from. So I'm taking it from the bottom. Since I'm getting rid of all of it, it should be equal to this, all right? You can also, if you are cell referencing that number, apply the formula that you're going to multiply the quantity times the cost and apply this formula all the way down as well, depending on how many batches you have. Okay? So once again, now that I got rid of this one, if it helps you to remember how many batches or what kind of batches that you've already sold, go ahead and highlight it. Okay? So we sold 500. How many more do we need to go?
A lot.
A lot more. So next batch, which one are you going to look at?
The April 20th for the 200.
So you're going to take 200 more. You're going to take all of it or some of it?
All of it.
All of it. So at this point, this one is cost you $6.10. So you're getting rid of the whole batch. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure I'm consistent. All right. So I'm going to indicate that I got rid of this batch here. Okay. What's next? How many more do we need to keep selling?
We need more than 750.
Okay. So we
50?
okay, good. So the next one is 750, right? Okay, I'm going to cell reference this. We're going to take the 750. We're going to get rid of the whole batch. Okay. And there you go. So we're getting rid of the whole batch. How much more do I need to sell? If I'm right now, I currently have 1450. I need to get to 1850. So I need 400. So I'm going to type in 400 right here. And now, because I'm only left with one batch, okay, let me clear that out. I'm only left with one batch, right?
Yes.
Because I got rid of this one. So therefore, what's my cost per item for this batch?
510.
510. Am I taking all of it or some of it? We're only taking some of it, right? Because we have leftover inventory.
Yes.
So in this case, 510, I'm going to multiply that by the 400, and I'm going to get a total cost of $2,040. Okay? Because I'm taking 400 and I'm multiplying it by my 510 because I'm only taking some of my inventory, not all of it. So in this case, if you add up all the totals, right, you're going to get a total of $10,822.50. All right? And that is exactly, you're going to plug that number right here. So now the next question is, what is your ending inventory?
I gotta revise mine's $3,060.
$3,060. Okay, so again, how we figured this out was, okay, if you want to put it here or, do your quick math here, if you want to show it, Obviously, it's not going to be correct if you place it there, but you could say that you had 600 left at, what was it?
510.
$5.10, right? We only have one batch. Enter that in, and you get the 3060. Okay, that's one way of solving it. The other way is, once again, I know I should have 13,882.50 at the end of the day. And if I sold 10,822.50, I should have 330.60 at the end of the day. Okay, so there's, again, there's many ways that you can solve for it, but there's only one answer. Okay, so that's the beauty of accounting, right? You could tell me every way that you can get the answer as long as you get the answer. There's only one answer.
I have a question.
Yes.
Wait, just because I'm looking at it on the screen,
Mm-hmm.
okay, your cost of goods sold and your ending balance, that won't equal the top numbers, the net purchase or anything, correct?
Not the net purchases.
Right. That's I mean,
Wait.
no, down.
In this scenario, yes, it does match your net purchases.
Well, no, I meant as far as okay, in D24, you have 13,882.50.
Okay?
Okay. What I'm saying is, if you took D26 and D27 and added them together, oh, never mind.
They should.
You know what?
Yeah.
They do. You know what? As soon as you move the screen, I guess I got something on my glasses. It just, the number didn't look right.
Okay.
I'm
Yes.
sorry. So, okay.
No
that's why
worries.
I was looking and I'm like, wait a minute, that should equal. And yeah, it's something on my glasses. I'm cleaning them right now.
No worries. So the only thing that I find a little hard to do is that when you're doing online courses and I have to show something to you on screen, that's why I try to blow everything up a lot bigger so you can try to see it, because I don't know what kind of screen you're using, whether it's a 15-inch, 22-inch, a 10-inch. I don't know. So you might be looking at this and it's probably microscopic to you. Okay, but for me, it's I try to make it as big as possible so you guys can see the numbers. And when I do upload it on video form, it should be almost readable. But that's why I have you guys mention what the numbers are. Because if you don't, like, what if someone can't make out what I just wrote, what I typed in? You guys have to say it.
Yeah, I clean my glasses and it still looks like 3080. It's funny, but if I increase the magnification, then it's clear. But that's what it was. I was saying 3080, and that's what didn't make sense to me. But
Yes.
okay. No.
If you need me to, I have the magnification right here. So if you need me to click that and zoom in that section right there for you, 3060. There it is. It's 3060. Okay. I'm just kidding. I'm just messing with you guys. But yes, it is 3060. And 10,822.50 is correct. So now that we solved for our numbers, right? What do we have to do? What's the last thing that we have to do?
Journal it.
We have to journalize it because we reached the end of our given period. We know one thing for a fact, that we have 80 items in our inventory. So now we need to make our conversion entry. So this is April 30th. So April 30th, what are we going to journalize? In this case, I didn't give you context of what we purchased, so inventory is just fine. So what's my journal going to look like?
Inventory ending.
Okay.
So you're gonna have a credit of 3,060.
Why credit? Are we increasing our inventory or are we decreasing it?
I have no idea.
Okay, so
I
remember.
was confused.
So in this case, where is my inventory located?
You have 600 units on hand.
You have 600 units on hand, but where are they right now? in context of my journal. Let's look at our journal. Where are they?
They'll be in the
Accounts
debit.
payable.
Inventory.
Is purchase expense an inventory item?
It's a debit.
And
Accounts payable.
Accounts payable is what you owe the vendor. But what is purchase expense?
The money you paid to purchase the product.
So in this context, my inventory is located in my purchase expense. Okay? So now I need to do a conversion entry to remove everything in my purchase expense and locate them in my inventory and my cost of goods sold. So remember that bucket idea? If I put everything right now in my purchase expense bucket and my freight expense bucket, right? Now my conversion entry is here. I need to now move everything that's in my purchase expense and my freight expense and either put it into inventory or my cost of goods sold. So in context, I have $2,450 worth. I'm sorry, 2,450 items with a cost of $13,882.50 worth in my purchase expense and my freight expense. So now I need to move it out of my purchase expense and actually recognize it as inventory. So because I know for a fact that I should have 600 units, I purchased 2,450 units. So where did the rest go?
Cost of goods sold.
It's been caught. Yes, exactly. So in this case, I have to recognize that I'm going to be increasing my inventory because when I began my inventory, I didn't have any. So now I am recognizing I finally have inventory. I have 600 units worth of inventory. And where did the rest of my items go? I sold them, right? Cost of goods sold. I sold them. They're gone. Okay. So again, my inventory, my ending inventory, what was it?
$3,060.
Good. How much did it cost me to sell everything?
$10,882.50.
Yes. So, I don't know if you're listening to my words carefully. How much did it cost you to sell everything? So, cost of goods sold is where I'm looking at.
Yeah, 10,822.50.
Good. Excellent. So there you go. And then, like I've mentioned before, if I'm dumping from one bucket to another, essentially I'm going to zero out my purchase expense and my freight expense. So in this context, right, I've already solved for what my total purchases was. What was my total purchases? Okay, hold on. Give me like 1 second to catch up. Okay, so what was my total purchases?
13,637.50.
Correct. And what was my total freight? So let me type in freight real quick because I'm zeroing it out, right? I'm dumping that bucket out. I don't have this anymore. Okay? So how much was my total freight? $245. So once again, if I equal sum my debits and credits. Okay, so I have 13,882.50, 13,882.50. And where do we see that number? It's your total goods available. Okay? Always. It will always equal the total goods available. Not your net purchases, your total goods available. Okay? Is everyone okay with this one? Everyone's good?
Yes.
Can I see the journal again?
Okay.
Okay, I'm good.
All right. So everyone's kind of understanding how this works. So it will make a lot more sense when we actually dive into our fictitious business and start using the general ledger. Okay. So right now, I'm making purchase of inventory. I'm increasing my expense, increasing, increasing, and increasing. Once I finally am converting my information, now I need to decrease my entire amount that I have in my purchase expense. So remember the bucket idea. And I'm going to be relocating them into either my inventory or what I sold. So once again, my purchase expense account, it's holding right now 2,450 items. But in real life, right, I've sold along the way and now I took a physical count, so I only have 600. So now that means I got to take my purchase expense box and I got to dump X amount in my inventory. And then I got to dump the rest in my cost of goods sold. Same thing with my freight expense, right? I got to distribute that. Right? So think of it like the bucket idea. If you're filling up a bucket, now it's the end of the period, so I'm going to be dumping them and relocating them into the other buckets. Okay? Everyone okay now?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So let's go ahead and do the second problem, and I'll let you guys go on a break after this. So this one, where I just only wanted you guys to practice journalizing the first section only. The next section you don't have to do, but you do have to journalize that ending, the conversion entry for the second scenario. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this. Okay, so now we're going to be continuing our inventory, right? Our inventory is still going to be periodic Lifo. Okay, so here we're given that we have ending inventory costing of 600 units, and we know what the cost is, right? By going to our previous worksheet. So this is a continuation of this idea. So here we know what we have. We have 600 units costing me a total of $3,060. So once again, I'm going to be reusing a new inventory worksheet because I'm done with this one. I don't want to mess with this one. I don't want to remove anything, right? So I'm going to go ahead and open up a new worksheet. So here, my quantity that I have on hand. So this is your inventory on hand. I have 600 items, and we know it cost $510. So with that, we know it should equal to 3060. So, and that's what we began our inventory with, right? So here, I'm going to make sure that this is 600 and that this is 3060. Okay? So that's my beginning inventory right there. Right? So let's see what happened next.
On May 5th, you purchased 500 units at $625 each for a freight cost of $50.
Right? So once again, sorry, wrong sheet. So here, May 5th, we purchased another 500 units at $6.25 each with a freight of $50. Right, so what's my total purchase price here?
It would be your units times your purchase price.
Mm-hmm. So 500 times 625, and what do you get?
3125.
3125. Okay. Now add your 50, and what do you get for your total?
31.75.
31.75. And now your cost per item is going to be
30 to
6.35.
30.
what was that, Nicole?
The total cost times
Mm-mm.
quantity
Not times.
or divided by quantity.
Correct. So what did you get, Alan?
35.
6.35. Okay, good. So what happened next?
You purchased 800 at $6 a piece, and freight was $80.
Okay. So on May 10, we purchased 800 units at $6 with a freight of 80. Okay. So what's my purchase price?
4,800. Yeah.
It's okay. What is my total cost?
4,880.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And what is my cost per item?
$6.10.
$6.10. Good. All right. Let's see what happened next.
You purchased 300 units at 615 each with a freight cost of 15.
May 20th. 300 at 615.
Should come to 1845.
And my total cost.
1860.
Okay. And lastly, what is my cost per item?
$6.20.
$6.20. Good. What happened May 25th?
We purchased 100 units at $6.30.
With a freight of 5. Okay.
I'm sorry.
Yep. So 525 was 100 at 625. Oh, 630 with a freight of 5. Okay. So what's my total?
The total purchase price is $630,
630.
and the total cost was $635.25.
It's just $5. Yeah.
And the cost per item is $635.
Awesome. Okay. Last but not least, what happened on May 31st?
You had a inventory check. Someone physically counted, and you have 400 units on hand.
Okay. So I'm going to make a note that down below that I should have 400 as my ending inventory. All right. First things first, now we reach the end of the given period. What do I need to do first?
We're gonna add up how many units or quantity we have,
Mm-hmm.
which is 1,700.
So we add 500 plus 800 gives you 13 plus 3, 16 plus 100, 1,700. Good. What is my total purchase price?
10,400.
10,400. And my freight expense, how much in total do I have for freight?
150.
150. So therefore, my grand total of total cost is
10,550.
yes, 10,550. Good. So let's plug those numbers in now that we solved for this part here, right? I don't need this part. Okay, so now that we solved for it, let's go plug it in. So how much quantity did I purchase?
1,700.
Okay, at what purchase price?
10,000.
10,400.
We are going to assume that we have no purchase returns and allowances. So therefore, oh, let's subtract, not add. Therefore, it should be the same. Right? Freight adds no quantity, but what does it add?
To the
Freight.
Mm-hmm. It adds to the cost of 150. So we're going to add these up together. So again, 1,700 plus 0 gives you 1,700, where 10,400 plus 150 gives you 10,550. 10,550. Okay. So now that we solved for our net purchases, right, which is the information that we got from above, right, we had no returns or allowances. So in this case, do we have beginning inventory?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we do. 600. Okay, and how much did it cost me to have those 600 items?
$3,060.
3,060. Good. We have our net purchases that we solved from right above, so bring that down. So I have 17 at 10,550. So because we're solving for our goods available, okay, we're adding them together. So 600 plus 1,700 gives you 2,300. 3060 plus 1055, or I guess,
13,610.
excuse me, sorry, I did not add my formula. 13,610. You just add them together. Okay. So that's how much we have goods available. So now let's solve for our cost of goods sold. If I had 2,300 available to sell and I only have 400 left in inventory, how much did I sell?
1,900.
You sold 1,900. So once again, I'm going to show you how to utilize the Lifo method and cost it that way. But if you have the other way already, you like your other way better, you can do that too. Right? So okay. So again, we're going to start with Lifo. So what am I going to sell first?
Well, it's last in, first out, so you would start at the bottom of your purchase list.
Correct.
May 25th.
Good. So you're going to sell the whole 100,
Yes.
okay, at $6.35 each to give you a grand total of $6.35. Okay. We got rid of this batch right here. Oh, no water, red. That was quick accident right there. There you go. Okay. What else do I need to sell? So now that I got that batch.
About that month.
Everything we bought that month, you notice that one thing. We only purchased 1,700 And we sold 1900. Good job. Okay, so everything that we have there, we sold. So anything, so that whole list right there, right? You can list them out, or you can just take the 1700 itself, because you know what the total cost of the 1700 is. But in this case, I'm going to make sure that I follow through so you guys know where these numbers come from. Okay, and we have the 500 here, right? Each one. Okay, so we know one fact here. We know that we purchased a total of 1700, and it's going to cost me a grand total of 10,550. So just exactly right. I solved it right here. So 1700 is for the 10,550, right? We still need to sell 200 more in order to get to 18 or to 1900. 200 more to get to 1900. So from here, I only have one batch left. And what is that batch?
Your beginning balance from at the beginning of the month.
Correct. So let me go ahead and wipe this all out. So we have left is our beginning balance, which, what's the cost per item for that?
$5.10.
So 200 times 510 gives you a total of how much?
2040.
2040. Wait, what did you say?
Wait, no, I'm sorry. I'm down. I jumped ahead of end balance. My fault.
Okay. Okay.
So, it's going to be 1020.
Good.
Yes.
All right. Add them up together, you get 11,570, right? Because all we did was add up everything, right? That's good. You guys recognize that you could find simpler ways to do this. And that's correct. And if you take the 400, right, times the 510, yes, that's the 240. But in this context, right, I can also apply that if I have this many goods available, my total cost, and I subtracted out the 11,570, I should get the same 2040. Okay? Any way around it, all right? You could solve for the 400 times the 510, you still get the same number. So either way that you understand it, right? Whether you use the Lifo to find the cost, or you use Lifo and understand that you're going to get rid of everything here, so therefore whatever you started out with should be what you're going to be ending with, right? So that's Lifo. Whatever you begin with is going to be what you end with. Whereas FIFO, whatever you bought last is what you're going to end with. Okay? Yes, it's confusing if you don't understand the first way around, but again, that's the great thing, that's the beauty about accounting. You can figure out how all the many ways that you could solve for the answer as long as you get the correct answer. Okay? So yes, there you go. We completed this transaction right here. Our answers are right here. So let's go ahead and complete our journal here. So what is my journal going to say? So it's going to be May 31st.
I'll go down a little bit. I think you're on the same line.
Wait, we're starting on May 31st?
Mm-hmm. Because I told you we're not going to journalize any of the transactions because they're just going to be rinse and repeat.
Okay, so the May 31st, and then it would be inventory?
It'd be inventory. Good. What else?
And then cost of goods?
Good.
You're on the same.
Yeah,
You're on the same line as.
that 1382.5.
Got it. Okay, that's what you were talking to me about. Okay.
Yeah, I thought I'd try to interrupt again too and stop you before you got too far.
Thank you. I didn't listen to Felipe in the first place, so it's okay. All right, so 531. Okay. So we got inventory. We're going to recognize cost of goods sold. What else are we going to recognize?
Your purchase expense and freight expense.
Yep, everything here. Except what's the difference between this one now? Because we have beginning inventory.
Uh, now the what we had on debit would be a credit, or am I wrong on that again?
When you say what we had on debit before, what are you, in context, what are you trying to say? Are
Now,
you talking about from the previous one?
yeah, but no, that'd still be a debit, so I take that back because we're just moving that inventory down.
Let's go ahead and just solve for it and find the ending balance, and then you can tell me from there. Okay? All right, so inventory. First thing we're going to recognize is our ending inventory. So what was our ending inventory that we solved for?
The 600?
The 600, no, not the 600. This is the new worksheet now. So what did we end what's our ending balance here? 400.
400. I was on the wrong one.
It's okay. At what
And
cost?
the 2040.
Good, 2040. How much did we sell?
11,570.
Correct. Okay. How much was our total purchases to begin with?
10,400.
Yes. And how much was my freight? $150. Okay. So go ahead and sum up your columns here and tell me what you are missing. So I have 13, 6, 10 in one column, and I have 10, 50 in 550 in the other. What am I missing?
Your ending inventory.
Ending
Or no, I mean inventory on hand.
inventory on hand, and how much was that for?
$3,060.
So in this context, where do you see $3,060?
Beginning inventory of the month at that 610.
Correct. That's 600
Yes.
items. All right, so good. If I add that in there, I get 13,610. Right now they both match. Now, again, we talked about this. It's inventory that you had on hand. So essentially, we were trying to sell out our inventory, right? We add it all up together, and that's exactly what it is. It's just going to be inventory, right? This is your beginning inventory. The top one is your ending inventory. So in this context, we took our purchase expense batch, our freight expense batch, and our inventory, right? Now we decided to dump out all of our purchases into the cost of goods sold, right? And now we only have our beginning inventory. We only took a portion of that. So we're essentially transferring it back into inventory once again.
Okay, this is where I got so I was kind of right when I said that old inventory will end up as a credit, not as a debit. We're moving it from one column as
Excellent. I was just looking for you to explain it a little better.
It's clicking. It's slow. This train is slow.
No, that's good. You were on the right track. Just needed a little more information in context. So yes, in this case, we took this inventory right here. This beginning inventory was our ending inventory from here. Yes. It went from a debit, and now you said we're going to convert this into a credit. And that's exactly correct. That's exactly correct. Okay? Because your ending inventory from one previous month will always be the beginning inventory for your next month. Okay? Excellent. Any questions, guys? You guys did great. Hope this is a little better understanding of utilizing the inventory worksheet a little better.
Oh my God, I was completely lost yesterday.
Now it's a little...
When I had the Excel Excel spreadsheet and everything else.
Yes. Good. Good. Again, like I said, we're going to be using these worksheets for the next 2 weeks. Okay?
I think what was easier for me too, instead of like going back and forth, was printing out the scenario that had all the inventories and transactions on it.
Correct. Yeah, but I just made it easier so that instead of going, you know, on a computer screen, it's a little harder, right? Because I have to show it to you and then I have to go back to the worksheet. So in this case, I just made it this way. But yes, it would be easiest if you just printed out just the inventory scenarios and then just have the worksheet on your screen and type everything in. Yes,
for sure.
absolutely. That's why I made it available in PDF so that if you want to print it out, you can print it out and just type in everything with the Excel. Excellent. So, any other questions, comments, concerns?
Better today.
Yes, and then watch tomorrow's going to be even easier. Even easier. And when I say even easier, we'll probably be done by the first hour of the class. Okay?
Nice.
All right. So,
Now, my only question is that we always got to keep in contact on what are we using as first in, first out, and what are we using in first in, last out, correct?
last in, first out.
Yeah.
First, yes.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah.
What do you mean by rules?
So, yeah, because there's not going to be a time where those are kind of intertwined at all.
We'll wait till tomorrow.
Oh, no. There's
Okay.
coding coming along.
Yes. Okay. So we'll take a break now, and then we'll come back and finish our exercise number 2.